G'day everyone, Duckville here, bringing you a Zerg vs Terran match from, I believe, NA ladder. It is going to be a very interesting one, of course, as you can see from the timer. It's a bit of a longer one. If you saw Goody vs Slavic, going to be a little bit similar to that, I believe. This one was sent in to me by our Terran player, but firstly we'll introduce the Zerg player down at the bottom right-hand side of Shakuris. His name is very similar to one of the names you may know from the scene. It is ClutcH. Unfortunately, it's not actually the ClutcH of MLG and ASL fame you may know of, but because that dude plays Terran, so it's definitely not him. And he's going to be facing off against one of my good buddies up at the top left-hand side of Shakuris. It is our blue Terran, OGRuineD, who's currently playing for OGaming, I think it's called. Of course, his name says Imbajacko, but it is OGRuineD, who is a player from the Australia region, who is doing a lot of mech stuff, and it is very cool to watch. Of course, if you may have seen in, I believe, in an episode of Late Night Imba Discussions, the show that myself and Wigan and Omerta were doing, talking about strategies and that kind of thing, we did look at mech in TVP, featuring one of the replays from OGRuineD. So we'll see how he goes here. I am expecting him to do some mech play, probably going to go for a fast expand, that kind of thing. All very simple to do this on Shakuris. Now, as you can see, looks like ClutcH is also going to do his own fast expansion. One drone for scouting, one drone for putting down the hatchery. That's going to go down relatively quickly there. Bam, on the 15 mark, not too bad at all. Going to get his economy pumping. Now, as a Zerg player, you do want to just be a little bit concerned about a couple of things on this map. Of course, the triple bunker block can still be done, and it is something to be worried about. Just, you know, if you are facing off against a Terran who's likely to do something like that, I wouldn't really expect OGRuineD to do anything like that because, as I said, does like to play mech, and you do need to try and utilize a little bit more of a safer economic style if you're going to do that, which means that putting down 3 bunkers can be a little bit detrimental to your opening right at the start. And of course, as the Zerg player, you want to keep an eye on whether the Terran is putting up any crazy kind of rack stuff. You want to keep an eye on if there are any SCVs that are missing from the base, maybe if there is a lower SCV count, which could mean that there is another extra rack somewhere across the map. But as you can see, he checks out and then actually gets out of the base very quickly, not really too worried about scouting exactly what's going on. Meanwhile, for OGRuineD, he does just jump in here, sees the pool is just about to complete, and we'll keep an eye on the timing of everything else here. Of course, you want to see if the gas are taken very quickly, or how quickly those are taken, because of course if gas is continually picked up by a Zerg player, could mean that they want to try and go for something with roaches right at the start. We have seen that if you're watching the Lone Star Clash, a couple of the Zerg players are doing a bit of early roach shenanigans, that 5 or 7 roach rush kind of stuff, which was a little bit of a troublesome thing to deal with for some of the Terran players, but it doesn't look like he's going to do that for the moment. Probably going to go for a quick expand, and I think OGRuineD, yeah, he does this. I have seen him do this from time to time, putting down a bunker at the what is normally the third base, the much more protected third base, because it's quite far across the map, and that's going to block that from being taken for a little while. And ClutcH is actually going to encounter some of these Marines that are just pushing through the middle here. Looks like OGRuineD will scout those out. ClutcH trying to get those lings out just to make sure that he does not get downsized in his ling count straight away, and they are going to have to lose their map control for the minute. It's not often you see lings losing map control to Marines, I tell you what. So he's just double checking that those are still coming, and we'll have to retreat back home. It looks like the Marines are probably going to go up and sit in that bunker probably till the end of time, because it'll be very interesting to see when ClutcH tries to take that. But waiting on an inject, there you go, and he is going to put a couple of creep tumors down. We're up to 3 queens at the moment, in fact 4 queens, my mistake. So he is going to utilize queens for defending right at the start, and that is going to be nice, because of course it is going to be a reactor Hellion opening from OGRuineD. He's in fact going to go double factory here, so probably expecting a few of those Hellions out, maybe even the blue flame very quickly as well. Of course, some of the Zerg players lately, primarily because of StarTale's Life, our recent GSL Code S champion, have been doing very quick ling attacks right at the start, normally utilizing a very a relatively early ling speed, but then pumping out around about 10 to 10 to 12 lings at around about this point. It's exactly around about now when you would see it, and they can come inside. Normally most Terrans will only have 2 to 3 Marines defending from this bunker. Means that lings will be able to flood in and actually do quite a lot of damage. Even just as the Hellions pop out, you can catch them before they get into a greater number like 4 or 5, and actually do quite a lot of damage to a Terran who is totally unprepared and going for a much more macro heavy style. But as we can see, that's not going to happen for the time being. Ruined is going to get out a tank first and is researching siege very quickly. So I think he might just try and push across with a couple of tanks, maybe try and siege up on a third base. As we can see, ClutcH did find that there was a bunker there protecting that third base, so he's not going to be able to take that one just as of yet until he gets quite a few more lings and or roaches out, and that actually forces ClutcH to take this base down at the sort of inner right middle base. I don't know. That's sort of the best we're going to get out of that name for that base, but. That is going to be spotted by Ruined. He's going to be able to send across a tank or two. A couple of Queens just moving forward, trying to get rid of those Hellions for the time being. And back inside the main base, ClutcH is going to pick up quite a few lings, 16 of them just about to pop out now. So he's preparing some defense, getting his lair up that's just about to complete, and a 4th macro hatch is also on the way. So he's going to prepare for some kind of attack, perhaps preparing for quite a lot of Hellions to come out. Looks like he did actually get rid of that bunker up at the top side, but looks like Jacko did get an Overlord there, which was quite nice to see. Good little catch, and then also salvaged the bunker, so quite a nice little victory there. He's delayed the third base, forced it into a little bit of a precarious position for the Zerg, and this, yep, beautiful little tactic here. Ruined is now able to siege up on this base. He can use the Zelnaga watchtower to give him vision. Of course, if you look at the tank range, it should be around about the same. Yeah, so relatively similar sort of vision there on the watchtower, so that the tank can get full vision of any attacks that come through. But the lings are preparing. There are quite a few of those out on the map, 36 at the moment. They're just about to get their 1-1 upgrade, so that'll be quite nice for them. But here they come, coming through from both sides. It looks like they are going to flank quite nicely, picking up some of the Hellions. One of the tanks, maybe 2 of the tanks will be gone very soon. He just needs to get the tanks. I think he doesn't need to worry too much about the Hellions, because the Queens can deal with the Hellions, and he does exactly that. So nice deflection, relatively well done from ClutcH. Of course, he did lose quite a lot of lings. We did lose a chunk of health from that hatchery, but just over a third is down on that, but that's not going to be too much of a worry. There's not really anything that can come through and deal, like, sort of snipe down that hatchery just at the moment. So he's not going to be worried about that. Not sure where that factory is going. He's got to head back here and get down on that tech lab. I think that's slightly mispositioned, is it, if he puts it there? Yes, it is. Don't know if you see that, but as we can see, Ruined is going to go for a very heavy mech style with the double robo coming up. The engineering bay just about to finish up as well. He's got to prepare for mutas, because the Aspire is now done. We've got 6 mutas on the way. Not a huge amount to try and really do massive amounts of damage, but what it does is just make sure that the Terran is kept in check, obviously keeping their anti-air at home, making sure that they're prepared with some turrets or a few turrets. In fact, 3 of them going up inside the main base here, just protecting that outer edge of the mineral line. And I think there is a Thor. Yes, there is a Thor just down at the natural base here. A couple of turrets going up here as well. So it looks as if Ruined should be relatively well prepared. He is trying to push out now to take his third base as well. The orbital command dropping down, putting him at a nice little mineral count at the moment. He's sitting up there at around about 1,500 minerals coming in, but lings have now flooded through, and they're going to be joined by the mutas in just a second. There it is. So the mutas are now coming into effect, getting a little bit of splash damage on those mutas, but the Thor gets annihilated straight away, and the Blue Flame Hellions doing their best to try and keep the lings off the Thor, but the second Thor has now come out, but it looks like that guy is going to go down too. Look at that, getting taken out straight away. The SCV saying what just happened, because they were not able to help out the Thor, bro. And it looks like the mutas are going to have a field day with this third base. I doubt they'll be able to kill it, but they did kill quite a few of those SCVs that were trying to retreat, and a couple of tanks, just the only thing left on the ground at the moment for Ruin. So he's going to have a little bit of trouble trying to defend this. If he can maybe lure the mutas into range of the turrets, that might help. But 2 Thors are on the way. I don't think they're going to come out in time, but as I said, it doesn't look like this command center is going to go down. The muta's going to retreat for the time being, now sitting at a total of 11 mutas out on the map. They're going to join up with a couple of their friends there. They're going to link up and go for some party time. And it looks like, yeah, Ruin just continuing to try and do some more damage. He's got a couple of Hellions to trying to duck through the southern section of the map. Now trying to get into the third base of ClutcH. If he can catch those drones, that'd be a beautiful little victory there for him. But he actually gets caught himself like a baseball in the mitt. Gets grabbed by those Lings, and is those Hellions don't actually get too much done. Interesting thing to note is the creep spread from ClutcH. This is fantastic. It's already through to the middle section of the map. He's got around about, I don't know, that's like, how many is that? That's 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, around about 12, maybe 13. Yep, there's some even towards his own, what is normally a 5th base up the top side here. So he's just doing a fantastic creep spread here. That's covering the map. I'm very impressed. It's not, it's almost a level of Scarlet. I'd put it up there. It's nearly that good. But it looks like he is going to suffer a little bit at the hands of the Blue Flame Hellions. They do have +1 on their upgrades and +1 on their armor, so they are going to be taking a little bit more damage and dealing out a little bit more as well to those Lings. But we are still sitting on this this Mutaling style for the moment from ClutcH, so he's not really worried about the mech too much just yet. But we do have now 8 roaches on the way hitting those injects. He has missed a couple of those injects. I'm a little bit confused about that. He's putting everything into those creep tumors and doing a great job with that, but seemingly missing a few of the injects on the queens there. So perhaps a little thing that he can just keep an eye on, perhaps. But it looks like Ruin trying to deal with some of these creep tumors through the middle section of the map. Of course, you do not want all this creep spread through your half of the map, especially when you're doing mech. Of course, when you've got a Zerg who's trying to switch into roaches and trying to deal with your mech with roaches, that's not a good thing to have creep spread all around, because those roaches are very fast, but not very fast are these mutas for some reason, thinking it's a good idea to try and jump on top of those 3 Thors. But I think they're actually, yeah, it looks like they were just actually downsizing some of those tanks to prepare for a possible attack. Looks like +2 to missile weapons is on the way from ClutcH. He's also got +3 to Carapace, so his upgrades are fantastic right now. He's also getting Neural Parasite for the Infestors. We haven't actually seen any Infestors just at the moment, so interesting that he's going for those things very quickly. Greater Spire is just morphing in now, around about a quarter done. There is a second Spire as well to help out with the upgrades. Of course, it was that's something that is only sort of just not just as in last week, but within the past sort of 6 months or so, I've only really seen Zergs really getting into that, doing the double upgrades for air. But of course, it's a different style of play that you have to utilize when you're facing up against a meching Terran, because you do have to realize that Lings are not really going to do too much because of the Blue Flame Hellions on the ground. They do get their upgrades pretty quickly, as we can see, +2 to weapons just about to complete for that. You also have to worry about Thors doing massive amounts of damage to mutas in the sky, and also the tanks, of course, which do extra damage to the roaches. But yeah, it's still something that you have to consider when doing that air switch as a Zerg player against mech. Looks like some of the mutas still trying to grab a couple of these tanks. Good reactions from Ruin, picking up one of the tanks, making sure that it is healed up straight away. And it looks like there is also a little bit of a switch coming in from OGRuineD as well. He's got a couple of Vikings now starting to pop out. Should know that there is the Greater Spire, or just looking at the timing, you should know with that Hive morphing there, you would probably know that the Greater Spire is not too far away as well, meaning that the Broodlord tech is going to be up very, very soon. So he is going to try and defend that as you normally would with the Vikings. Not going to go for a high Raven count, as you do see from time to time with the Hunter Seeker missiles throwing down to try and deal with the Broodlords. So we'll see what's going to happen here, because the upgrades are still coming out of both players. We've got +3 to weapons and armor for the mech units around about halfway done. We've also got 1 to the Carapace and attack of the fly units for ClutcH, so he's going to be sitting up there with nice upgrades on these Corruptors, and in turn the Broodlords as well. Lings are about to get their adrenal glands, and also +3 to their Carapace, and it looks like he's going to bring in a few Banelings. I'm not really sure what the plan is with these Banelings, but they will be able to help against the light units such as the Hellions on the ground. So we'll see how that affects any sort of upcoming play. Perhaps ClutcH is getting prepared to go for an attack. He's perhaps just waiting for these last upgrades to finish up, but no, he's actually not. Going in with Lings and Roaches, it looks like he wants to try and downsize some of this army, busting through the southern left flank of Ruin's forces of Hellions with Banelings, and now the Roaches are free to go to town on all of these Thors. The Thors getting absolutely massacred right here. The Vikings dropping down on the ground, not really doing too much. Of course, Roaches not too afraid of Vikings with their low DPS, especially without their upgrades just as of yet. It looks like all the Thors have actually been removed. Wow. Good attack there from ClutcH, just really, as we said, downsizing a lot of that mech army. If you want to try and make sure that you're not dead before the Broodlords come out, then you need to try and get rid of those Thors. You want to try and get rid of the tanks as well, so that they can't push alongside the Thors as well. So, good stuff there from ClutcH at the moment, just really, as we said, getting rid of quite a lot of that army. Ruined has taken the 12 o'clock base, so he's trying to bring in some extra money and gas from up there. Looks like the Roaches trying to get rid of the rocks in the way. Dust and Browder not happy about that, but the destructible rocks do survive at the top side for the time being. Looks as if an Overlord being very cheeky, throwing down some creep up at the top here as well, just making sure that that's going through. There is a creep tumor which can also pop up inside that top base as well. So I'm thinking that that ClutcH wants to perhaps go for a bit of a switch here. We've now got an Ultralisk Cavern just about to be completed. We have around about 1,500 gas as well, and Overlords now have their speed. So I think that you know, ClutcH is perhaps starting to look to abuse the immobility of the mech style here from Ruined. Of course, the siege tanks very slow because they can't move when they're sieged up, and then even when they are unsieged, they're still very slow. And of course, the Thors, one of the very, very slow units of the game. But now, as we can see, it does look like there is going to be a drop. There are 7 of these Overlords filled up with Roaches at the moment, so he's going to try and go for a drop. But just looking at the path of that, he's going to try. Wow, he's going to try and sneak all the way around the map into the main base down. So he's going to take a path that takes him through the southern side, through the west, and then up behind the 4th base, or the 5th base, I should say, of Ruined, and then maybe you can sneak by. But I think the jig is going to be up very soon, because this Viking is going to spot, there it is, it's going to spot all of those Overlords here. Where are the rest of the Vikings? Are they going to get across in time? It looks like he's going to move some of the Thors as well. The Viking number totaling, how many is that? 20 Vikings at the moment. So he's actually going to intercept this attack. This is going to be a very nice little play here from Ruined, cashing out that attack. He should be able to get all of those Overlords before they are able to drop a single thing, and he does indeed. Last Overlord goes down without releasing a single Roach, and that actually, ironically, that supply blocks ClutcH at the moment, so he's going to need to bring out another 6 Overlords. He did lose, of course, all of those Roaches as well, but now, as we can see, the Ultralisk production has begun. Along with all of those upgrades, plus 3 to melee attacks is just about to complete. 2-2 for the air units, just also completed for ClutcH as well, so these Corruptors going to be able to do a nice amount of damage against the Vikings up in the air, but he is also going to get the upgrade for armor on the Ultras. The chitinous plating is just about to complete as well, meaning that the 11 Ultras that are just about to pop out are going to have quite a lot of tanking potential, not to mention all the damage they'll have as well. And ClutcH, not afraid to continue on with his air tech as well. He's also picking up 3-3 on his air units as well, so that's still a while away, but it's going to be ready for a possible tech switch, and that's something you do need to be concerned about as an opponent of a Zerg at this stage of the game, when we're sitting here at the 25-minute mark, when there are quite a lot of bases up for the Zerg and a lot of gas coming in. With ClutcH has got around about he's got 6 bases, so that's 12 extractors are up, bringing in quite a lot of gas, and we can see he's up at a total of 2,000 banked gas and then 2,000 minerals on top of that. So he's going to be able to do switches as he pleases, and with the Ultras out, he's perhaps going to go for a bit of an attack and get himself prepared for a possible switch. Of course, the thing with the Ultras is they're not too useful against the Vikings, but what they can do is make the Vikings land. You can perhaps take out some of the Vikings and then switch into a Broodlord Infestor tech, which is just going to absolutely annihilate things at this stage of the game. But as we said, the big switch is the thing that is very concerning about playing against the Zerg at this stage of the game. But what has Ruined got? He's got his good upgrades here on the mech, 3-3 on all of those mech units. He's got 1 on the Vikings at the moment. In fact, Lanza Torpedo. You know, I've never actually looked at the name of that. Lanza Torpedoes. That's crazy. It's not a submarine, dude. Anyway, so OGRuineD is sitting quite nicely up at the top base here. We've got extra starports just being built. There is also the consideration that you may want to start switching into a higher Raven count, or perhaps throwing in some Banshees as well. I believe we did see 1 or 2 Banshees in here. They were here somewhere. From OGRuineD, so he is throwing in a few Banshees, but I'm thinking that something like a battlecruiser tech might be something that you might want to look at this stage of the game, especially when there are quite a lot of ultras out like that. But here comes a drop. It looks as if a lot of lings inside all of these 5 overlords at the top side. They're going to drop into OGRuineD's 4th base. There is a tank or 2 protecting this base, along with the planetary fortress as well. Ling's going to do quite a lot of damage, as well as that planetary too. So he's going to deflect this relatively easily. May lose. He's lost a tank and a few of those SCVs, but I'll tell you what, at this stage he's not really worried about that. At this stage he is worried about all of these ultras pushing through the middle, but the 250mm cannon was researched by OGRuineD, and he's actually using that to great effect. The ultras have been absolutely annihilated. There are only 2 of those left, but in come the neural parasites from the infestors, picking up 3 of the tanks, 2 of the Thors as well, able to do quite a lot of damage there. But the Thors are still alive. 2 of them are still alive and kicking, taking down the rest of the infestors. Those guys stay alive, but the tanks do not. And that was a nice little victory there for ClutcH, I would say. He did, as we said, the big thing about mech is actually the fact that resupplying can be quite hard. But when you look at it, OGRuineD is sitting on a total of 9 factories at the moment, and of course the majority of those are all tech labbed up, so they're going to be doing great stuff with the resupply of OGRuineD at the moment. So he's going to pick up quite a lot of tanks. As we can see, the Viking count is still relatively high at the moment. 14 Vikings out at the moment for OGRuineD. So he's going to be able to deal with any possible Broodlord switching here, but that is not happening. ClutcH still with these Corruptors sitting in the middle of the map, not really doing too much. He's not worried about switching just as of yet, even though 3-3 for the air units is now done. He's picked up another 11 Ultralists, and in fact they're going to start with another attack. I don't know if this is the greatest idea. They're going to try and push in, but a whole bunch of siege tanks were produced by OGRuineD, so he was all ready to go with that attack. A bunch of infestors about to pop out, 11 in total for ClutcH, so he's going to have a nice total of really high count of infestors. It's about time we started seeing that. He's gone for a relatively low infestor count for the majority of this game, but he's now going to start kicking that into overdrive. And speaking of going into overdrive, OGRuineD is now picking up the battle cruiser tech. The fusion core is done, doing the fusion core dance, getting the behemoth reactor and the weapon refit for those battle cruisers, so they get their Yamato cannons, and bringing in 3 battle cruisers at a time. So we'll see how that goes. It looks as if there is a fight down at the southern left-hand base of OGRuineD. He's got 3 ultras bearing down on his planetary fortress, and those guys with 3 on their weapons doing 47 damage, splashing onto some of these SCVs. Not often you see a planetary that goes down to ultras. Wow, that is an incredible little feat there. I must say I've never actually seen ultras just whacking through a planetary like that, even when it's being repaired. They're going to try and get down here. There is a double planetary here. I think that's going to be the end of those ultras for now, and the Banshee's helping to clean up the last of those. But the SCV count, as we can see here, starting to get a little bit low for OGRuineD, but is he concerned about that? No. He's not really worried about that. He's got 39 SCVs at this point. Not really too concerned about that fact, because, of course, you're going to have a lot of orbital commands. You've got these extra ones being built in the middle section of the map. We've now also got some Hellions that are trying to poke through into the 4th base of ClutcH, just trying to get rid of some of these drones, getting rid of a whole bunch of those, and that helps out a little bit, but not too much. At this phase of the game, when you've got, how many hatcheries has he got? He's got a whole bunch of them. I think there's about 8 hatcheries out on the map. You can resupply, and 16 drones are going to just resupply all of those ones that were lost, and as we saw, the large amount of infestors. There are a total of 16 infestors out on the map. There are 6 broodlords now. The switch has started to occur. Not a whole switch per se. There are still 7 ultras out on the map, so it's not as if ClutcH is doing a full switch into Broodlords just at the moment, but he certainly does have quite a few to throw into the mix. This is the very deadly part of dealing with the Zerg, when you've got this very high infested count here, sitting at a total of 16. There are 6 Broodlords, 7 Ultras, a few Lings on the ground, and that's something to contend with, because of course you have to deal with the with all of those Broodlords up in the air. There are going to be the Broodlings on the ground, along with the Ultras as well, doing their 47 damage to armored units, which of course is a majority of a mech army. And that means that that OGRuineD is going to have to be prepared to deal with both facets of that Zerg army. Now, as we can see, he's just trying to clear up some of this creep spread here. ClutcH has been continuing on with this almost abusive creep spread for the majority of this game. He's pushed it into the bottom left pocket side base that would normally want to be taken by OGRuineD at about this point. And I think that's what the Banshees were trying to go for here. The Banshees now coming in. I don't think they're going to get too far, because Infestors are approaching from the top, getting fungal growth, and then a few of those Infested Terrans thrown down. Are they going to be able to get any kills? They do get a kill on one of the Infestors, so not too bad there for OGRuineD. Of course, the thing about using Infestors to try and deal with Banshees is that you need to throw out the fungal growth, you need some infested Terrans as well, and that means that ClutcH is going to be losing some of the energy here, which means that any possible attacks might be delayed by a little bit. So that is a small part of playing against a Zerg like this. As we mentioned, the battle cruisers are coming out for OGRuineD. He's currently got a total of 5 at the moment. There are a few Thors also out at the moment. Just looking at the army counts for these guys, we've got 6 battle cruisers, 1 Raven, we've got one Lonely Marine. Wow, that guy must be the commander of all the forces. 15 tanks, 14 Vikings, and 8 Thors are out on the map. So bear in mind, the battle cruisers have 2 on their weapons and 1 on their armor at the moment. And now it looks as if OGRuineD is going to see that his opponent is starting to push into the middle of the map, doing this very, very edgy sort of split map situation here on Shakuris that you do see in these longer games. It looks like, yeah, we got a relatively, I don't know, I'd say that's a relatively small spine crawler count for this sort of point in the game. There's around about 15 of them, which isn't actually a huge amount. OGRuineD's going to see all of this, of course. You can see that the movement into the middle there from his opponent, and now it looks as if the battle cruisers are just going to try and perhaps get a shot off or 2 at some of those spore crawlers and the spines. Maybe you could use a bit of Yamato cannon at this point. Of course, as we've mentioned in quite a lot of the previous long games that I've done casts of, at this stage of the game, energy units are where it all matters. You've got to have a lot of those energy units out, because you want something that can produce damage for free, relatively for free, because of course it doesn't take minerals to throw out a fungal growth. It doesn't take minerals to put out the infested Terran beach balls as well. So those are things you have to consider. And of course, on the Terran flip side of things, we've got the battle cruisers doing their damage with the Yamato cannon. You of course have the auto turrets and hunter seekers from Ravens, which is why generally we normally see a little bit of a higher Raven count from Terrans at this stage of the game, especially when you're going mech, because you want to try and use the hunter seekers to deal with things like the big Broodlord count and that kind of thing. But he's sticking with the battle cruisers for the moment. There are still 7 of those out on the map. They just did a little bit of work down the southern side, actually taking out ClutcH's base at the 6 o'clock position with a few nicely timed Yamato cannons. The Infested Terrans tried to deal with that, but not there in time. The Infested count has now bumped up to 23, so he's sitting quite nicely with a whole bunch of fungal and not to mention neural parasite available. So here we go. It looks as if OGRuineD is starting to move into this the southern left, the sort of the southwest side of the map now. He's moved the majority of his forces over here. He knows that the middle is got a little bit of protection with a couple of planetary fortresses there, and the fact that ClutcH is not really going to want to attack into here. Everything is going to be focused on this southern side of the map, I would say, because of course this is the last remaining base that OGRuineD can take. He's also going to need to try and create an attack avenue down to the 6 o'clock position of ClutcH, which is now opened up. And here come the Broodlords. They've got a little bit of vision with those changelings, and now the Broodlords throwing down the Broodlings. Going to take a few shots on some of those tanks. They're doing a good job of that. Want to try and keep those tanks unsieged for the time being, and as we can see, the rest of them now unsieging as well. So the big issue here is the Viking count, but there is, whoa, that is a huge huge fungal catch there. That is actually all of the Vikings that RuineD has. And a Hunter Seeker going off, bringing down the pain on one of those Broodlords and some of the Infestors on the ground as well. So that did a good job of dealing with the majority of those Broodlords there. What that does mean is that with this very high air count, ClutcH is actually going to switch into his own very high air count with 20 Corruptors on the way. Keep in mind, the Corruptors will have 3-3, so they're going to absolutely rip through battlecruisers as soon as they get in range of them. Of course, the Corruption adding that extra little bit of bonus damage as well. So the battlecruisers are going to be cannon fodder for some of those Corruptors if they're out in force. The big issue for ClutcH is that if the Corruptors group up a bit, that means that the Thors on the ground are still totaling in a large number, relatively large number, 6 Thors with 3-3, are going to be able to tear apart some of those Corruptors. So it's a bit of give and take situation between these two guys. But now, as we can see, the Infestor count whittled down just a little bit there with some of those Yamato cannon shots, not to mention the 6 base going down yet again, and ClutcH starting to prepare these Corruptors. He's got how many was it? 29 of them out on the map. We've now got a few Banelings also morphing in the middle section of the map here as well. So they're going to try and help out on the ground, dealing with the tanks and the Thors on the ground. But it looks as if RuineD is decided it's go time. We're moving into the middle section here. Looks as if the battle is on all over the place on all sides. Down through the south we go. Corruptors dealing with the battle cruisers, throwing down some... is there any corruption? No, there is not. Quite interesting to see that there is no corruption. But the battle cruisers downsized completely there, losing almost all of those, but looks like RuineD is going to try and resupply with the battle cruisers. The Corruptors trying to take some, trying to deal some extra damage there. The Ultras and the Banes were quickly swept away by the mech forces, and it looks as if the Corruptors and the Infestors were some of the only things that survived, and just going to morph in 15 of them. 23 Broodlords, sorry, I should say. Just 23 Broodlords. In fact, cancelling some of those. And there it is, 15, 16. All right, he's gonna sit with 15. So he's not gonna go full Broodlord. You never go full Broodlord because that could be very troublesome to deal with. I know ghosts aren't really an issue anymore, but they could be. You know, you never know. They could be ghosts out with some EMPs on the Infestors, perhaps a couple of snipes on some of those Infestors, get rid of them, and then there is no real way to stop the battle cruiser army. But as we can see, the question for RuineD at the moment, is he going to get all these battle cruisers out in time? We got 4 that are just about to finish up. There is 1 more in production. A couple of Ravens are also out at the moment as well. So he's going to have point defense drone to try and deal with the Corruptors. But here come the Lings and the Broodlords and the Infestors and the Corruptors doing a great amount of damage. But there is a Yamato cannon all over those. It looks as if he took down some of the Broodlords there. But this huge army from ClutcH is still quite a lot to deal with. The thing is that he's got to deal with planetaries everywhere. The Infested Terrans being thrown down. There's a couple of point defense drones as well. Battle cruisers coming in from all sides, trying to deal with this army. The Thors on the ground, of course, doing a great amount of damage against everything on the ground. The Vikings. Is the factor going to be in these Vikings? They're targeting down some of these Broodlords really nicely, and with a very low Infestor count that ClutcH had, he's not able to fungal them. He's not able to throw down any more Infested Terrans, and the Broodlords, all 15 of them, have been cleaned up, and now it looks as if RuineD is going to be able to re-secure this base at the bottom left-hand side here, and perhaps take out his opponent's 6 o'clock base. This will mean that the mining for ClutcH will only sit in this top base here, which was actually just scanned by RuineD. So he's going to be ready for the possible attack coming through the middle section of the map. There are a lot of Lings. You often see Zerg players just resupply, going a crazy resupply on Lings at this stage of the game. And realistically, he actually doesn't have too many more resources to go because he's used up quite a lot of the gas. He's getting a few more Infestors back out. We've now got the Infestor total back up to 14. He's still got 63 Lings on the ground. Keep in mind they do have 3-3 in the adrenal glands, but when it comes down to it, last I checked, Lings can't fly, so they're not going to be able to take out these battle cruisers. Not to mention they're going to have a hard time even just pushing through some of these planetaries, protecting the middle section of the map. So it looks like like Ruined has put himself in a very, very nice position at the moment. Unfortunately for ClutcH, he's just going to try and counter-attack with some of these Lings sweeping through. Going to try and get rid of some of these production buildings here from Ruined, but he's not really going to be able to get too much done. Infestus now trying to push through the middle, not really able to grab too much there. The mining for Ruined is actually still sitting quite nicely, despite the fact that he's Terran and, of course, using quite a lot of mules. He's still got the base of the left-hand natural. He's also got the base down the bottom left, and then as well the middle left base in the sort of pocket section here in the middle as well. And now it looks as if he's starting to complain, I would say, about mech play. And when people like you play like this, Zerg will never get nerfed. That's okay. That's a little bit weird. But anyway, so ClutcH, what is he going to do here? Not too much left to go. He's got a lot of minerals, he's got a lot of gas, but realistically, there is nothing else he can really do. He's got all these Lings, and he's sort of he's resupplied himself back up to 147 with Lings. But as we said before, Lings can't take down battlecruisers. Lings are not going to take down these Thors when there are some Hellions protecting them like this, as we can see. And yeah, these guys now talking about the viability of the maps. But now ClutcH is trying to retake the bottom base down at the 6 o'clock position here, and it looks, I don't know, I'm trying to think of any way that he can try and come back here. You know, perhaps some perfect fungals might be able to do some damage, but the battlecruisers have so much HP. 550 HP on those guys, not to mention all the armor they have as well. They've got 6 armor, which is quite a lot to deal with. A neuroparasite, a couple of neuroparasites going on here, and they are not too great, of course. The tanks not really taking too much damage there at all. Now we've got the big wall of the Zerg now sitting in the middle of the map here. Looks as if the Hellions are getting a little bit happy trying to push in against all of those spine crawlers. Not the greatest idea with their 25 damage, and it looks like Ruined is just going to have to slowly push through, because ClutcH is not prepared to give up just as of yet. He's got 36 more Lings in production, 6 more Infestors, but realistically speaking, as I was saying, like, I hate to beat the dead horse, but I have no idea how he's going to do anything here. It looks as if he's going to try and send in some more Lings to counter-attack into this base here. Not really going to do too much. Ruin not too concerned about losing this base, not really concerned about losing anything here. He effectively has his Death Ball army that is not going to die to a bunch of Lings. There we go, as we can see. The Thor not even dying there to all of those Lings that were pushed through, and now some more Lings at the southern side also trying to get into that base, but Thor's battlecruisers are pretty good against Lings last time I checked. So he is trying to you know, make the best of the situation. He still does have quite a lot of minerals available, but there is no real tech to go with it, because he doesn't have the gas to build the Broodlords or the Ultras. He doesn't realistically have enough to grab a whole bunch of roaches either, but it looks as if a couple of good neuroparasites, grabbing some of those Thors as well. Fungals going down on top of the Vikings, not really doing too much. The Vikings still alive for the most part, but there's nothing really to shoot for them. The Lings getting annihilated by the battlecruisers and the Thors as well. Now this spine crawler wall has been reduced to nothing. A couple of spores left over are the only things left, and now it looks as if Ruined is starting to make the final push, because there is nothing to stop him pushing through the rest of this map. And now we've got a big count of battlecruisers, 7 battlecruisers and 13 Thors out on the map. So there is no way that ClutcH is going to come back. He's going to have to GG in a minute. But the last little cleanup crew of Ruined coming through the middle section here. But really good game. It was really interesting to see a mech play that actually switched into battlecruisers there, as we saw. Normally, you don't really see battlecruisers because there are a lot of counters towards them. Such as the Fungal, Infested Terrans, Neuroparasite, the Corruptors in large numbers, doing that big damage to them as well. But it was good to see that there. I think that for the majority of the time, ClutcH did not know that switch was going on. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm pretty sure that came as a little bit of a surprise to him to see all of that, given that he had all of those Ultras and Broodlords out and virtually no Corruptors for a short time. and that sort of orchestrated Ruin getting into position to take this base, stop his opponent from getting this base down the bottom, and then led to a few very, very interesting battles. So I hope you enjoyed this game between these two players. We've got a lot of mech fun here from RuinD, and of course we will have some more Heart of the Swarm stuff coming up. We've got some more games coming up from Wings of Liberty as well. If you'd like to see your own replays, please feel free to send them through to duckvillelol@gmail.com, and I will see you all next time. Cheers.